If you've been watching the housing market and thinking something feels a little different lately, you're not wrong. Nationally, analysts are calling 2026 the start of a housing reset. Not a crash, not a boom, but a shift. And today, I want to talk to you about what that actually means for here in Metro Detroit, because the national headlines don't always tell the full story of our market. And as you're listening, I want you to think about this question. Do you feel that the market right now favors buyers, sellers, or no one at all? Drop your answers in the comments. I'm curious to what you're seeing and feeling. Now, let's start with the big picture. After years of instability, the housing market is starting to move towards something we haven't seen in a while: balance. Mortgage rates are expected to ease slightly in 2026, hovering just about the 6%. That might not sound dramatic, but psychologically, it matters. For many buyers, it's the difference between waiting and re-engaging. At the same time, home price growth is expected to slow significantly. Not collapse, just calm down. And for the first time in years, wages are projected to grow faster than home prices. That combination is what's driving this reset. Now, here's where Metro Detroit becomes interesting. Unlike some pandemic boom markets that are still correcting, Metro Detroit never experienced the same kind of explosive overpricing. Our growth was steadier, more grounded, and because of that, we're positioned very differently heading into 2026. In many Metro Detroit communities, prices are holding steady or rising modestly, not because of hype, but because of demand is still rooted in fundamentals: jobs, affordability, and long-term livability. This is especially true in areas like Northville, Plymouth, Grosse Pointe, parts of Oakland County, and established suburbs where inventory has remained tight. What I'm seeing on the ground is this: buyers are cautious, but they're not gone, and sellers are realistic, but they're not desperate. That's balance. Now let's talk about affordability, because this is where the reset really shows up. For years, affordability felt completely out of reach for many buyers. Rates were high, prices jumped fast, and monthly payments were intimidating. In 2026, affordability doesn't suddenly become easy, but it becomes possible again. Slightly lower rates help, stable prices help, but wage growth is the quiet hero here. For buyers in Metro Detroit, especially first-time buyers and move-up buyers, this means something important. The math is starting to make sense again. Not everywhere and not for every budget, but enough to bring people back into the conversation. Now let's flip to the seller side, because this is where a lot of people are confused. Even in a slower demand, most homeowners are not under the pressure to sell. The majority of sellers here are sitting on substantial equity. Many have low mortgage rates locked in, and that means they have choices. What that tells us is this: we are not headed towards a widespread price drops driven by distress. Instead, sellers are more selective. They're listing when it makes sense for them, not because they have to. This is one reason inventory is improving, but not flooding the market. And that's also why pricing strategy matters more than ever. In this reset market, homes that are priced well, prepared properly, still move. Homes that chase yesterday's peak pricing tend to sit. Now let's zoom out for a moment, because this reset isn't just financial, it's behavioral. One of the biggest shifts we're seeing nationally and locally is how people are choosing to live. Multi-generational living is becoming more common. Friends are buying together, people are prioritizing flexible space over square footage, and in Metro Detroit, this is showing up in very specific ways. I'm seeing increased interest in homes with finished basements, bonus rooms, and layouts that allow separation without isolation. Homes that can adapt to changing family dynamics are standing out more than ever. At the same time, the rental market is tightening up again. Rents are expected to rise modestly in 2026, and that's pushing for some renters to reconsider buying, especially when monthly payments start to feel closer than they expected. Another trend that's quietly building is what I call the Refi and Remodel mindset. Many homeowners aren't moving, they're improving. As rates dip slightly, refinancing becomes an option for some, and tapping into equity for renovations becomes more appealing. In Metro Detroit, that often means adding functional space rather than luxury upgrades. People are investing in how they live, not just what their home is worth. Now here's something that doesn't get talked about enough: climate and location stability. While other parts of the country are dealing with rising insurance costs, climate risk, and unpredictability, the Midwest, including Southeast Michigan, continues to look attractive. We're not immune to challenges, but we don't face the same pressure points as coastal or disaster-prone markets. That stability matters, including for buyers thinking long term. And that's one reason I expect Metro Detroit to remain quietly competitive as the reset unfolds. So, what does all of this mean if you're thinking about making the move in 2026? It means timing the market matters less than understanding it. The deals that are succeeding in this environment are not rushed, they're prepared. Buyers who understand the process, know their numbers, and stay flexible tend to feel confident instead of stressed. Sellers who are priced realistically, present their home well, and focus on strategy instead of headlines tend to move forward smoothly. This is a market not for extremes. It's a market for clarity. And if you're sitting there thinking, I don't know whether this is a good year for me to buy or sell, that's actually the right question. Because in a reset market, the best move is the one that fits your life, not the one chasing momentum. And in my next episode, I'll be talking about this directly. So let me ask you one more thing. What are you most curious about heading into 2026? Prices, rates, timing, or whether waiting still makes sense? Drop that in the comments. I read them and they help shape what I talk about next. And if you're thinking about buying or selling in Metro Detroit and you want to understand how this market applies to your specific situation, feel free to reach out to me with any questions you might have. You can visit my website, leslieemartin.com, or you can find me on Instagram at leslieemartindtw. I'm Leslie Martin, and I look forward to helping you make your next move.